Hey everyone, this is Nick from Tenacity.ai with my co-host Jason, and you're listening to the Cloud Cost Optimization Podcast. Today we're going to talk about one of the popular Finops myths we run into in having conversations, in talking to folks in the industry, and also in seeing actually some of the content in the industry. And that is the myth around Finops is, the sole goal of Finops, or the only goal of Finops is really to save companies money, which I think if you've been in the FinOps space, you kind of obviously see that that's not the case. But those organizations who are going through this transition, that is the thing that everybody's talking about: is how do we control our cloud spending, or how do we save money? So, Jason, just would love to kind of ask the first question of what is FinOps about, or why do people have this perception of FinOps being only about saving money?
I don't know why they have. I mean, I think marketing lends its hand to why people have perceptions about different things, right? Especially when there's a little bit of confusion around a topic. Marketing tries to create clarity, and in some ways, sometimes it kind of obfuscates the underlying principles of said thing, right? Especially when you try to simplify it. So, but I think to me, it's bringing the finance team, the finance team or arm or structure of the organization, along with and adapting to all of the changes in the way that, in particular, if we want to talk about cloud in particular, how budgeting and expenses around cloud infrastructure have vastly changed over just our careers, right? And unfortunately, it was hard for finance teams to keep up with the pace of change that was happening. And I think FinOps is a way to help those finance teams along the way and give them the tools and the processes necessary to be able to adapt to said change.
Yeah, I think, the transition to a variable spending model, that's the biggest change. Is gone from buying hardware, which was a capital expenditure. We're thinking in terms of a 3 to 5 year outlook. More is great in terms of finance, right? When you think about capital outlay and amortization of that cost over time, it's a very, very kind of controlled, predictable, budgetable, is that a word? Structure that
budget friendly, I think, is what they would call it.
Thank you. A budget-friendly structure. So sorry, CFO friends. Budget-friendly structure that, organizations having to make this transition from sort of that. I can, every October I sort of go through my annual budgeting process, and we collaborate across the organization, and we come up with a plan, and we're going to spend this amount of money on our hardware or refresh, whatever. That's no longer the case. Now we're coming up with a budget for a variable set of expenditures that, frankly, the people we've put in control, the VP of engineering or the CTO of that spending, a lot of times doesn't have very much direct control. They're not, they may be signing the agreements, but they're not actually, writing the check. It's the engineers that are developing against the environment, and that's a very rapid, responsive way of doing engineering and business, and it frankly creates a bit of a struggle for the finance team.
Yeah. Give them a pause there so they can cut that out. Yeah, I think that it also gives the finance team the structure and the processes necessary to harness the power of what they can now do with, as in this particular example, cloud spend. From a financial perspective, that used to be a black box. IT team came, we need X amount of dollars. It's going to give us X amount of resources, which should leave us good for the next, let's say, 18, 24 months, 12 months, whatever it was the case there. Well, now, with the power of being able to I identify any singular widget within an environment and get a cost for it, I can track my costs from a financial perspective down to the application, the business group, the business line, whatever it is in the context of the customer itself. So not only does it allow them to get up to speed with where everything is and variable spending and all that, it also allows them to harness the power of being able to track spend down to an individual or singular or granular level.
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time in this data, in the cloud cost data itself, or cloud spending data, and it is really powerful when done correctly. And I think this is a benefit that's not talked about often, or at least often enough in organizations or in the FinOps space, of how much you can do with this data, or how much of a game changer this is potentially for finance organizations as you start to think about the new way of looking at unit costs, which we used to do on a spreadsheet, once it maybe update them once a year from a product perspective. Yeah, try to. Probably actually with each refresh cycle, really 3 to 5 years, we kind of update our guess at unit costs. But you can get down to the actual
It was
unit
always
cost now.
this, Nick. Remember, it was the
thumb in the wind.
The OSNFU. That was the budget line item. Oh shit, Nick. It was like there was always that fudge factor. There was always a piece of the budget in which you had to go, okay, best guess here. And that's because we didn't have data. Can you imagine if we had that data down to the day or data down to the hour on what a particular customer used, and we could use that example to build that out? It would have been far less a thumb in the wind, or the portion of the budget that was a slush fund would have been a lot smaller, right? I mean, that's just how it works. And now we can give the power of that to organizations through using the FinOps operating model, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's incredibly powerful. I think this, coming back to this myth of FinOps is about savings. I think that's originated in the current times, because really, there's two factors feeding into this. One is folks make a transition, and when you go from a CapEx model to this variable spending model, it is a little shocking dealing with the variability or the fluctuation in the environments, especially if there isn't good controls, which I'll tell you that just 90% of the consultations I've done or advisory work that I've done in the cloud space, and I think the same is probably true for you, there aren't good controls on the fluctuation in cloud spending. Look at our own bill. Last month it went up 35%. We have to dig in and understand that and look at the tools and go, oh, okay, well, this happened. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? And now we need to put some controls around. How many organizations are not looking at that? Because maybe the numbers are small enough, and so they're just not paying attention until the number's big enough, and then it's suddenly like, well, wait a minute, now we got to look back a year or two and understand all this.
Can you imagine how much you waste, how much how much of your budgeting dollars you waste by waiting to the next cycle, or by waiting till some manual process? And that's what's so important about the operate portion of the FinOps model, which by the way, just to think that, back to this myth, if you go look and actually read the FinOps and you go do some research on it, you find that it's a far more encompassing thing than just savings, right? And part of it is the operate model. There's only one leg of the FinOps operating model is savings optimization in the terms of, and then even that savings is typically only even a facet of that. But if you look at the operating model, it's about being able to predict and understand when these things change before they happen, so that you can react and save that budget before it becomes an issue, right? And so you're not going, oh man, we wasted $15,000 last month. No matter how big your budget is, that's $15,000 that could go to something else, maybe another business line, whatever the case may be. And so I think, that's an important thing about it.
I would challenge one piece of that. While optimize is about savings, it's not solely about that as well. And that's part of this myth is in the FinOps framework, inform, optimize, operate. Optimize is also about all the things that go around accountability and predictability and understanding where my costs are actually going. So yes, am I doing it in an optimal manner? Am I leveraging potential savings or cleaning up potential waste? But also, do I understand my unit economics so that as I grow, I'm actually planning for and predicting, what I'm going to spend when I bring on a new customer, when I need X amount of new widgets. What is that going to cost me? So creating that I hate the word transparency, but it is true in this case, creating that transparency around who's accountable, can we be predictable about it, and can we actually have collaboration between these teams, those who are, making the code changes or deploying the code that is going to affect variable spending, and those who are ultimately accountable to making sure that the business is viable and doesn't run itself into the ground. We need those teams working together better now more than ever.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's any difference in what a team that was in the CapEx, buy hardware, have all of my equipment on-prem. I don't think there's anything different that they're accountable for, right? Or that they think about accountability, predictability, collaboration. It's just that the cloud has kind of upended the model with variable spending, and they're trying to achieve the same thing. That's what FinOps does, is it's trying to re-achieve those things inside of an organization that is leveraging the power of public cloud. And that's it. That's the goal, actually.
Make the variable spend far more predictive.
Absolutely. And hold people accountable, right?
Absolutely.
Ourselves included. All right, great. Well, I think that wraps the show this time. Jason, any parting words?
Go blue.
Awesome. All right. All right. Tune in next time for we're going to dive into the topic of FinOps for MSPs and the opportunity that exists in the market for partners, professional services, consulting, et cetera. It's something we're close to, so definitely tune into the next episode coming soon. Thanks for listening.